Jane's heart pounded in her chest. She held her breath, listening for any sound from the living room. Her eyes darted towards the deep freezer in the corner, its lid slightly ajar. Joshua was inside. He had been there since her husband, John, unexpectedly returned home. Jane had panicked. She shoved Joshua into the freezer, his startled face etched in her memory. "Jane?" John's voice boomed from the living room. Jane flinched, her hand instinctively flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. She had to think fast. John was suspicious. He had noticed the tension in the air, the subtle changes in her behavior. He was looking for something, or rather, someone. Sweat trickled down Jane's spine. She imagined John's face contorted with rage if he were to discover Joshua's presence. The thought sent a shiver down her spine. This was her worst nightmare. She had to protect Joshua, but how? The freezer door creaked as Joshua shifted inside. Panic surged through Jane. Time was running out. She had to make a choice, and she had to make it now. John's heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway, each step sending a fresh wave of terror through Jane. He entered the kitchen, his eyes scanning the room, lingering for a moment on the slightly open freezer. His gaze then settled on Jane, his expression unreadable. "What's going on, Jane?" John asked, his voice dangerously low. Jane stammered, trying to come up with a plausible explanation. Her mind raced, but no words came out. John stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. He could sense her fear, smell her deception. He strode towards the freezer, his hand reaching for the plug. With a swift motion, he plugged in the socket. The humming of the appliance started, plunging the room into an eerie silence. Jane watched in horror, her heart sinking with each passing second. John turned to her, his face now a mask of cold fury. "I'm taking you for the weekend. Pack your things. I am locking the house and the freezer." He grabbed her arm with a knowing look in his eyes. "We're leaving," he growled, dragging her towards the front door. "A romantic getaway won't hurt." The car ride was a blur. Jane sat beside John, his silence more terrifying than any outburst. Fear gnawed at her insides. Fear for Joshua, trapped in the cold darkness. Fear for herself, facing John's wrath. And then there was the guilt. The overwhelming guilt of her betrayal, of the lies she had told, of the life she had so carelessly risked. Her thoughts raced, a chaotic jumble of fear, guilt and desperation. She had to do something. She had to save Joshua. But at what cost? Confessing would shatter her world. John's trust, their life together, everything would be destroyed. The thought of his pain, his disappointment, was almost unbearable. Could she live with that? Yet how could she not confess, knowing Joshua's life hung in the balance? Every minute he spent trapped in the freezer brought him closer to danger. The weight of her secret, the burden of her choice, pressed down on her, threatening to crush her.